Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
Now, coming up later in our broadcast, we'll have a special report from Leanne McAdoo. She went out into the street and asked people what they would do if they won this massive lottery jackpot. Also, a special report from John Bound, and I talked to printable gun pioneer Cody Wilson. But first, we go to Joe Biggs, who's on the streets in Charleston, South Carolina, getting ready for the RNC debate. All right, and thank you for joining us, Joe.
Thanks, Jakari. Now, we're standing outside of the Belmont Charleston place. Now, this is the actual location where the RNC is meeting on whether or not they should go with the impeachment process. Now, you can actually go to Infowars.com. Steve Watson wrote an article about a week ago talking about the RNC considering impeachment proceedings. The resolution consists of 48 criminal charges for President Obama, and it's titled Articles of Impeachment of Barack Hussein Obama. So that's happening here right now. This should be going on until about Friday, from what I've heard thus far. Now, also, we have the first presidential debate of the GOP of 2016. That starts tomorrow. Now, we do know that Fiorina has not been allowed to come back to this main stage, and also Rand Paul. So we want to come out here, have a chance to chime in on the Mystery Science Theater thing that we always do, where you guys will be commenting on the debate, as well as coming to us live with some feedback from people here at the debate as well.
Thus far in the city, have you seen a lot of pageantry, a lot of, gates laid out for crowds or anything like that in the city of Charleston?
I haven't seen that here. We're actually further south from the North Charleston Coliseum where the debate will be. But here currently at this hotel where they're looking into the impeachment process, I haven't seen a lot of security or anything like that thus far.
Yeah, the impeachment process, it's been a pretty big polarizing thing. A lot of people say we don't want to make Obama a martyr. Other people saying, we may not have until the end of the year to get rid of this guy and his policy. So it's going to be very interesting to see, if this plays in this week's debate. As you know, Joe, previously the Democrats have been having these debates on Saturday nights, when Star Wars comes out, or the next one's going to be during the NFL playoffs, from what I understand. So it's very interesting to me that they continue to have these debates at times that nobody's going to be watching.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they're hiding from something. They know that that's going to make it look bad when you have a primetime audience that has their full attention, that Hillary Clinton is going to have all of her skeletons come out in front of a large audience. And they're using that mask of an NFL playoff game to skate behind that so people won't find out what's really going on when Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton start bickering back and forth. Now, they have no problem with the Republicans going out on the main stage in front of a population that has no distractions whatsoever, because people want to hammer down on the Republicans. People hate Donald Trump. A lot of people do. You got a lot of people that are confused on whether or not Ted Cruz should be allowed to run for president. So there's a lot more WWE themed things with the RNC versus the Democratic debate. People want to keep that on the hush hush.
Well, it's going to be very interesting to see. And of course, as you alluded to, we will have our live coverage here starting at 7 p.m. Central. The debate itself is going to start at 8 Central, but I believe Leanne's going to do a piece. We'll start about 7:30, and then we'll be throwing to yourself and Richard Reeves live in Charleston, South Carolina. Thank you so much, Joe Biggs.
Well, thank you. And we also want to encourage as many people that are watching to come out and support us and let us hear your opinions on the upcoming presidential election. Thank you, Jakari.
And there goes Joe Biggs. Now, we're talking about the Republicans, but also there's the Democratic debate, as we alluded to. They want to have it during a time that nobody's watching, so we will not be covering that. If they want to have it like on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday when people actually tune in, yeah, we talk about that as well. I'm not cheerleading for the Democrats, nor am I cheerleading for the Republicans. I'm just calling it straight down the middle the best I can. And people are calling it down the middle with Obama's latest State of the Union address, of course, that happened here recently. And we have a new article from Kit Daniels today. Obama's 3 biggest lies of the State of the Union address. Number 1, Obama claims America has the strongest, most durable economy in the world. In direct contrast to reality, the president said anyone who points out America's economy is in a decline is peddling fiction. Now, think about this. We have a huge financial deficit. We continue to spend millions, if not billions of dollars, whatever it is, minutes, years, whatever. I don't know you guys seen all that ticker clock. But anyway, we spend a huge amount of money on our military industrial complex. We have a huge bubble in the educational market. A lot of people coming out of colleges and they can't find jobs. So it leads to a whole big deal. I saw that movie recently, The Big Short. It talked about the financial and the housing market decline of 2008. It's a very interesting film. I'm not saying it's the most historically accurate. I'm not a big economic guy, but it shows you how easily things can be manipulated into a situation that's not good for the entire country, because a lot of people, they feel safe and they say, I don't own stocks, or personally, I don't own stocks, but it affects much larger than just the people who own the stocks, because, for example, they have the person in the movie, he's paying his rent to his landlord, and he's doing it on time and in a timely fashion, but his landlord isn't paying the mortgage. So, even though the guy was doing everything he needed to do, the landlord wasn't handling their business. So that's just one of the many things that's in this article. Also, Obama claims we need to focus on destroying ISIS, but he omits the fact that NATO is arming and funding ISIS. Not to mention how we continue, and we meaning the CIA, continue to fund Al-Qaeda. It goes back to the Mujahideen with President Reagan. So it's nothing new under President Obama, but we arm our enemies and then send our guys out there to fight them, just like we give firearms to Mexican drug cartels, and then we tell the Border Patrol to fight them. And then when the Border Patrol agents end up dead, Obama goes to Mexico and says, the reason for all this gun violence in Mexico is because of American demand. It's like, no, it's because you're giving guns to guys like El Chapo in Sinaloa. They don't want to mention anything about that. And as Kit points out, in the real world, the White House and several other NATO nations, particularly Turkey, are arming and funding ISIS-linked militants. And that is spot on. And also we have number 3, Obama claims Obamacare helps create jobs. This is the kicker here. But the affordable insurance is too expensive for many companies to afford for their employees anyway. And as a result, many firms are now relying on part-time employees to avoid the Obamacare penalty. So as well-intentioned as it may be, in the reality of things, it's not really helping, because you'll see in an article coming up a little bit later how many people are stuck working even after they retire. Now let's talk about a big kicker. Obama says that he's done so much to help the veterans. Under the Obama administration, we've seen multiple scandals, VA scandals, telling veterans they can't go to memorial parks and blocking them off and all that. But let's hear from Obama himself how much he has helped the American veteran.
It's in that spirit that we have made progress these past 7 years. That's how we recovered from the worst economic crisis in generations. That's how we reformed our health system and reinvented our energy sector. That's how we delivered more care and benefits to our troops coming home and our veterans.
So there you go, the most transparent administration in history, telling you how they help the veterans, even though, as we pointed out, VA scandals and all the rest of it. The VA is trying to take away people's Second Amendment rights if they go to H&R Block and have somebody help them with their taxes. That shows you how much they are helping the American veteran. Iran releases 10 U.S. Navy sailors after boat drifted into Persian Gulf. Iran's Revolutionary Guard released 10 U.S. Navy sailors who were detained after 2 small ravine boats crossed into Iran territorial waters, the Pentagon confirmed on Wednesday. In a written statement, Secretary of State John Kerry thanked Iranian authorities for their cooperation in swiftly resolving this matter. So it's good to see that the sailors were released. Hopefully we won't have any further hostilities on that front. Now, something that's very interesting to me, I don't have any kids, but the big thing I hear from a lot of parents is, I don't want to have a gun in my house because, the kids may find it or whatever else. And I understand that. If you choose to buy a gun safe, that's your business. If you choose to get a biometric firearm, that is also your business. But in the state of Oklahoma, where I'm from, we have an article how parents are suing the DHS over gun policy. It says 2 foster parents sued the Oklahoma Department of Human Services, that's their DHS, because they say certain department rules for adopting kids violate their right to own guns for self-defense. According to the lawsuit, a couple wanting to adopt are required to sign a weapons safety agreement, which states in part that they are prohibited from possessing or carrying firearms in their vehicle or while their foster adopted children are present. So which is to say you cannot drive around with a gun in your vehicle, and also you cannot have one while your child is present. Well, the child's gonna be present in the house, right? So they're saying that you cannot have a firearm in the home. And this is just kind of, I guess you would say, backdoor gun confiscation, because it's to a point in this country, regardless of what Obama says and all these other politicians, some politicians are much more overtly hardcore anti-Second Amendment rights than Obama is, but the issue is they don't want to go door to door and take your guns from you that way. They're too smart for that. So they come up with all these registrations. You can't have a firearm in your home if you adopt a child, or you can't have this many bullets in your magazine, or you have to buy a smart gun, or you have to have a safe, or you can't have a gun with X number of cosmetic features. So are they going door to door and kicking in your door? Yes, they did it in Hurricane Katrina. Do they want to do that nationwide? I'm pretty sure not. They'd have enough police and military who rebel against that, but they're finding other ways to come after your Second Amendment rights, and it's completely ridiculous. If something did happen to these kids, they would say, you foster parents, you are not responsible adults for not protecting your children. Meanwhile, they're telling the foster parents that they cannot protect the children in the way that they see fit. And finally, before we go into a special report from Leanne McAdoo, a record number of retired Americans are working part-time jobs. And this is from Zero Hedge. They said they reported on Friday that the surge in December job holders, a whopping 300,000 of these new jobs, were by multiple holders, as in one person working 2 or more jobs, which means that when they say the big charts and the graphs and X number of people are working now, yeah, there's people working 2 or 3 part-time jobs because they can't get a full-time job, in part because of Obamacare. It's not all Obamacare's fault, but it does have something to do with it. Now, with this in mind, we're going to talk to Leanne McAdoo. She went out to the streets and her woman on the street and asked people, if you won this massive jackpot from the lottery, what would you do with your winnings? Here's a look at that report.
Usually we do about 100, 150, but recently we've been doing about like $800, $900 worth.
A day.
Yes.
Leanne McAdoo for Infowars.com. I am out here reporting on what is being called Powerball Mania. People have gone absolutely hysterical and driven up this prize. It's the highest prize in lottery history, $1.5 billion. And as you can see, this Powerball sign doesn't even go that high. People have a 1 in 280 million chance that they could win this prize, but they're lining up in droves to get their winning ticket. So we're gonna go find out what would they spend their money on? What would they do with this prize? And then I'm gonna see their reaction when I spoil all the fun and let them know that the winner's already been announced. Do you guys play Powerball?
Oh yeah,
We've played in
yeah.
3 states. 3 states. You're up in the odds.
North Carolina, Tennessee, and now in Texas.
So now in North Carolina or Tennessee, do you have to pay state taxes as well if you win?
I don't know the answer to that at all.
We'll share.
So
if
you don't-
we win.
So you don't mind that the real winner is going to be the federal, state, and local government?
That's
Didn't know
pretty
that.
sad, but yes, I've heard that. Yes, ma'am.
A lottery or something. I heard someone talk about it up there. Like the chances of you winning it are like getting struck by lightning and
5 times.
Yeah. I think you should still go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're not in it, you won't win it.
I have probably a better chance of making out with Tom Brady than I do winning the Powerball.
This is true. You have a 1 in 272 million % chance of winning.
It's absurd.
So what would you do with your winnings, though, if you did play and you won?
Make out with Tom Brady.
You know who the winner is, though, right? They've already been announced.
No.
The government.
Oh, yeah.
Are you okay with that they take at least 40%? Here in Texas, it's only 40% because we don't pay state taxes, but in other places, it's 68%.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's still more than you had, and that's the way life works here.
I don't want that much money.
Really? Why? You've heard too much horror
I have
stories?
the soul of a gremlin.
How's that?
I would do so much mischief with it. Oh my God.
The one guy said he was going to get hookers and blow.
No.
That video went viral.
That's allowed.
What would you do if you won the Powerball?
Oh man, I couldn't even imagine. I would invest a lot of investments and party.
Yeah.
Party.
I'm sure if I won the Powerball, there'd be people up in a line with their hands out wanting to take it one way or the other. Either way, if I had 10 million of that, I'd be happy enough.
Well, so you're not worried about the Powerball curse, though?
No.
What do you think about those people that they like win all this money and then their lives are ruined? How does it?
I think they're idiots. Yeah, I mean, really, they're just idiots. They should have given some of it away, and you know, if you fly too close to the sun, you get burnt, man. What can I say?
This is a protest, and this is a riot. If you can't tell the difference, then you are part of the problem. Infowars.com.
Another GOP debate is upon us.
When you had the World Trade Center go, people were put into planes that were friends, family, and they were sent back. They knew what was going on. They went home and they wanted to watch their boyfriends on television.
Who else would come back like that at the Bushes and the Clintons calling them criminals?
And
this
the
is
Saudis.
amazing. You guys go back to your live feeds.
You see, we don't have rights in America. Only the people who are outside of this country have a right. The only right that anybody has is to come live in America, presumably to live off of us if that's what they choose. They can come live off of us. They can come create war in our country. That's their right. But people in America don't have rights.
The first and most important priority of the President of the United States is to protect the safety and security of Americans.
No, it isn't. You're disqualified. You have an oath to the Constitution, and the oath to the Constitution says, and the Declaration of Independence says, you are created to protect our freedoms.
Right.
Not to keep us safe. They didn't want safety. They wouldn't have rebelled against the strongest government in the world if their first priority was safety. Their first priority was liberty. They created a government to protect that. I'm sick of these people.
If we want to defend the country, we have to defend against who's are coming in. And Marco has more of an allegiance to Chuck Schumer and to the liberals than he does to conservative policy.
Do you really think that Republicans have fueled the rise of ISIS?
Yeah, where's she been? Who is she?
The allies of ISIS, the Islamic rebels against Assad, that we created a safe space or made that space bigger for ISIS to grow.
We know what's going on. We know these guys are running ISIS. And when they talk about shutting down freedom of speech, he just repeated the exact same stuff he said in his speech, even talking about how you don't refer to these people as masterminds. He knows precisely what he's saying. These are a bunch of Morlocks, and the American people are a bunch of Eloi. When they talk about serving America, you're on the menu.
Join Infowars January 14th, starting at 7 p.m. Central for another episode of Political Science Theater 3K.